Hello and welcome to today's video where I'll cover the LPL and LCK games from this morning, which you obviously missed and would like some recaps or highlights about. Here I note all the key moments in the game for myself to reiterate, and well, not reiterate, but go over with you, saving you a lot of time because some games 35 minutes long, 40 minutes long, whatever, saves you a lot of time when you hear what happened in 5 minutes compared to 40. I do this for all four major regions. Our first matchup of today was between Thunder Talk and EDG. It was a mismatch on paper and it was a mismatch in the game. As you can see here, the kill score in the first game was 17-4. EDG opened up firing, going 3-0 in mid at 9 minutes. And by 10 minutes, they're already up 4K with Viper up 20 CS. So he was already gapping the bot lane. And TT just had nothing for these guys. It was a disaster. EDG would take the ocean, and Thunder Talk's only response was to gank top, in which case EDG responded by going 3-0 in mid. Zhao Zhang with a double kill. Zhao Zhang was a big contributor in game one. That power turned into a Chemtech Drake, which then, it just was a snowball. It was a snowball game. They won at 23 minutes. They had an 8K gold lead by 20 minutes. It was 9-3. Zhao Zhang was 4-2 and 3. Zhao Peng. Or Zhao Zhang. I think maybe it is Zhao Zhang. Zhao Peng's later. EDG would then take an Infernal. They didn't give anything up except that one time they got ganked. The game ended at 23 minutes with Scout getting a triple kill to clean up and end it when they had Baron and they had 3 Drakes. TT just had nothing for these guys. It was a real quick. EDG is the only team that's looking clean right now this year, which I'll get to in a minute. Game 2, EDG came out again with 2v2 kills in bot lane. The bot lane was a big contributor. Viper was obviously the MVP, and he showcased why in Game 2 by getting multiple times getting kills on the Thunder Talk bot lane straight up without even a lot of jungle pressure. Thunder Talk would try and get Drakes early on in this game to try and get ahead in some way. So they did play better in this game than the other one. They would take a Chemtech Drake, make a couple plays. The game was pretty much tied in kills at 10 minutes. EDG was up 2K gold, but Thunder Talk had 2 Drakes to none, which was an advantage for them. But things started getting out of hand when Scout had a 30 CS lead in the mid lane and put EDG up 4K by 16 minutes. So this game wasn't more so EDG coming out and punching them in the mouth. They slowly beat them slowly built their lead instead of just punching them in the mouth. The game ended 24 minutes, which is only 1 minute longer than the other one, but the way they played it, they didn't play it to crush them immediately. EDG would then, first big significant fight occurred at 17 minutes when EDG prevented Thunder Talk from going to Ocean Soul. It was an ace where Viper had a double kill. EDG would then win 4-2 in the next fight, Viper getting another double kill, and now Viper was 7-0-3 at 20 minutes, and they had an 8K gold lead. EDG would then take a Baron right after that, get up to double digits, and just win the game. They took an Ocean to continue to prevent the Ocean Soul from going to Thunder Talk, and EDG just crushed them. 33-11 is a real thrashing in 2 games. Viper getting ahead in the bot lane in terms of CS, it was just a bot gap, and then in game 2 it was a mid gap with Scout. So EDG is looking good. I think third is, they're going to be above LNG, which I'll get to in a minute. So I think but they might be second on Monday. Game 2 was between Top and Ultra Prime. I will say Top is disappointing me. Despite them winning this series, they lost the first series, and they don't look very good. They're going with Renekton Nidalee right now. Just in the first 2 games, Top would open up by taking the Drake. They emphasized Drakes in game 1. This was a 35-minute game where Top really said to themselves, we are going to out-macro the hell out of Ultra Prime, and they did. They made some plays, in which case Knight got a double kill in the early game, which led to another Infernal Drake. Top would go 3-1 in fights as the mid game began. It was 5-2. They had a 4K lead, and Knight was 3-0-1 at 15 minutes. Top would then already be at sole point before 20 minutes. Up would then have to respond because now they're down 8-3 in kills, and shoot, I mean, Top was already at mountain sole point. Up would then take the next one, but Top was willing to not get too aggressive and push the issue. They waited till the next Drake, as you can see here if you can. There's 3 brown lines and 1 black line. There wasn't a lot of fighting in the mid to late game as we got to the latter 20 minutes of this individual match. Jackie Love would have a double kill. Well, no, actually a triple kill in the fight to decide the mountain soul at 28 minutes, which, I mean, that was all they needed in the end. I mean, that is what pushed them over the edge. At 31 minutes, Z's would stop Top from ending the game with a double kill, which, I mean, I remember I went over this yesterday. A couple times there were games where players were able to, step up at the last second when you didn't really see them do much of anything in the early game. All of a sudden they pull out a double kill, and Z's did that. I mean, I think that's the only time I really noticed him in this series at all. At 35 minutes, just to note how the game was, Top was up 18-11, 7K gold lead, and Jackie Love was 10-2-6. Jackie Love becomes the MVP in this series. Game 1, more so than anything else. I mean, he crushed it. At 35 minutes, the Elder Drake ended the game because Top would win that 5-2. Jackie Love with a triple kill. And I'll be right back for Game 2. Game 2 between Top and Up was a lot different than Game 1. Ultra Prime would come out swinging in bot lane, getting Elk ahead 4-0-2 by 10 minutes. Ultra Prime was up 7-4. 3 different times they made sure to go down to bot lane. There was a couple fights at the Rift Herald at 8 minutes were kind of interesting because Up would take those 2 fights 4-3, but nobody would end up with the Rift Herald in that, time period, that small time period. I think Top ended up coming back and getting it eventually, but there was a lot of fighting over top of it. Top would respond with plays of their own to even out the game after 10 minutes. Pick plays here and there in lane because Ultra Prime are still making mistakes in the solo lanes. Their bot lane is solid though, like I keep saying. Top was up 2K gold by 15 minutes. And there were multiple plays in bot and top lane, both teams attacking either side of the rift. Top would then take a Mountain Drake, and at 19 minutes, there was a 1-1 for the second Rift Herald. So everything was contested, but it wasn't like nobody was giving it their all. There was no 5v5 brawl through the first 20 minutes of this game. At 22 minutes, Top would take the Hextech Drake, where Knight would have a double kill. Knight showed up in this series more so than he had in the first series, in my opinion. He was really manning the Victor quite well in this game. And in this game, he had Silas and had a double kill as well. So he showed up in every game, I guess. So in 25 minutes, it was 10-10. It was a game between Elk and Knight. Elk was 6-0-2. Knight was 4-2-3. There was a 1.5K gold lead discrepancy between the teams. But Ultra Prime would then begin to take the objectives. Elk would have a triple kill as they took the Hextech Drake 3-1 at 35 minutes, which rolled right into a Baron, which then, took their gold lead to 5K immediately, and Elk would then get a pentakill in the last fight at 34 minutes to end the game. Elk was like, if there was an MVP for Ultra Prime in this series, it was Elk, just like in the first series that I've mentioned. He has stuck out in both series for me. Game 3, he could not... Top figured out what to do about Elk. In the early game, they smacked him in the mouth a couple times. Zhao Peng came down twice. Got a double kill with Jackie Love in the first time. Zhao Peng got a double kill the second time, which then turned into a massive lead in the bot lane. They would then gank a third time at 10 minutes. And by 11 minutes, Top was up 7-1, 4K gold, and Jackie Love was 4-0-3. He was ahead of Elk. Elk was not coming back in this game after that. He was put in a hole, and there was no way he was getting out of it. Plus, he picked Xayah, and Xayah, nobody has picked Xayah so far in the 4 major regions. I feel like there was a draft gap here. So, The only thing Ultra Prime did in the first 11 minutes was take an Ocean Drake. Top would respond to a Chemtech Drake, and then they would take the Drakes from there on out to go to Soul Point later. By 20 minutes, it was 14-4, 6K gold lead for Top. Zhao Peng had a 100% kill participation through the first 13 kills for Top, which was a big deal. I mean, he was really the facilitator in this game individually. I probably would have made him MVP if it was just this third game. But when you couple in the fact that Jackie Love was a big contributor at the end game of Game 1, I had to make it Jackie Love. By 21 minutes, Top would take a Drake, in which case they'd push their gold lead to 10K. Not Drake, they took the Baron, pushed their gold lead to 10K, then took the Infernal Drake, then they would take another Baron. Ultra Prime really were just allowing this to happen. They couldn't really muster a comeback in this game. Like, you see the score 20-5, very reminiscent of Game 1 between Thunder Talk and EDG. Ultra Prime just did not have a shot in hell in this game. The final fight was 4-0 at 29 minutes, where Top went through top lane and won. Jackie Love was the MVP. Top, like I said, EDG looked very clean in their win. Top did not. This game here was a disaster for them. Plus, they had some struggles in Game 1 where they, were having to really contest these objectives. So, I'm interested how EDG and Top will look against each other long term. But for now, I have EDG very far ahead of Top in my power rankings, which you'll see Monday. This is something that I didn't expect out of Top. You'd figure Knight and the like would do a better job. Now, Game 3, we had LNG and Rare Atom. On paper, they were both 1-0. Power rankings, very different. The number 2 team and number 15 team. Rare Atom, I underestimated coming out. Rare Atom is looking a lot better than I thought they would. Game 1, LNG would get a kill, set the tone. Lamau would get a kill in the 2v2. In which case, Rare Atom would respond, ganking Top for 1k gold to result in a 1k gold lead, and also take the first 2 Drakes. Actually, they would go to Soul Point before 20 minutes. They would take the first 3 Drakes. By 12 minutes, LNG had failed to dive against Rare Atom 3-2, in which case Strive had a double kill. This is very reminiscent of how LNG nearly lost in their first series, I believe, to Ultra Prime, if I remember correctly. Because in the early game, they were trying to gank and dive, and they kept screwing up, and they screwed this one up too. LNG would then take the Baron after getting 2 pick plays at 20 minutes. They took it on spawn. And by doing that, they actually had a chance in this game for a little while. At 21 minutes, it was 7-6, and the game was tied in gold. LNG would then prevent Rare Atom from getting the Cloud Soul, in which case Rare Atom would win the fight 4-1 afterwards. Strive getting a quadra kill. And, that stopped the power play. That made the power play actually negative. It did stall the game out for a couple minutes, but in the end, actually, Rare Atom are up 2k after the Baron by LNG. LNG would then take another Drake to prevent the Cloud Soul. So, in response, Rare Atom would take another Baron. They were up 5k. It was back and forth, back and forth. LNG would stop them from ending on that Baron with a 2-1 play. Rare Atom then said, okay, well, we'll reset. Then they took the Cloud Soul, would take a Baron for the second time themselves, and end the game through multiple lanes. They would just end the game. It was just 35 minutes, they ended it. Leanne had a double kill in the ace. Now I made out what I wrote. R.A. ace. Rare Atom had an ace. Leanne had a double kill to end the game. Game 2, much shorter. As you can see, not a lot happened. It was an 11-3. Well, you probably can't see because of the angle of the camera and whatever. 11-3 score of Game 2. It was a very slow game in terms of kills, but a short game as well. It only was 25 minutes long. Rare Atom made some plays in the early game where it was 1-1. Doomby would get a double kill at 6 minutes as part of a 3-1 in mid. Rare Adam would take a Infernal Drake. LNG ended up 5-2 by 10 minutes, 1K lead. Doomby was 4-1-1. So he made the play in mid lane where Rare Adam screwed up and botched the dive. And then as part of the 3-1 fight for Rift Herald, Doomby did real well. LNG would take the second Drake. And by 15 minutes, LNG were expanding their gold lead to 3K. They would take another Drake. I mean, in this short game, they would go all the way to Hextech Soul Point. By 20 minutes, it was 8-3. They took the Baron, and it brought them to 8K. I mean, this game was over. I mean, I don't even know really what much. There's not much to say. Like I said, it was 11-3. Light had a double kill in the last fight at 25 minutes. Doomby set the tone in the early game by getting those kills on Victor. And, I mean, kind of goes. That's how it kind of goes. I mean, this is what LNG should look like in every game, but they didn't in this one, and they didn't in this one, and they didn't in the first series. Like, this is the LNG that we expect, and I mean, they're very inconsistent right now. Game 3, Rare Adam would punch LNG in the mouth 2-0 for a Rift Herald at 9 minutes. LNG would respond by taking a Hextech Drake. 11 minutes, iBoy, which iBoy ended up being the biggest player in this game, at least for Rare Adam. He would get multiple kills in the early game. Rare Adam would make a play top as well. At 15 minutes, Rare Adam are up 5-1. iBoy is 3-0-1, and they have a 4K gold lead. So you'd think this game was over, but they ended up throwing it in the end. Rare Adam would take multiple Drakes, and by 24 minutes, iBoy would have a triple kill in a 3-1 fight, which really just set up Rare Adam for that Soul Point, Mountain Soul Point, where they're up 4K gold. Now, when Rare Adam ended up deciding, hey, we're going to go for the Soul Point at 21 minutes, after 24 minutes, LNG decided to force the issue in other lanes, in which case they ended up taking and cutting the gold deficit in half, which made a big difference in the game. I mean, instead of a 5K deficit or whatever it was, it ended up being a 2K deficit. However, Rare Adam would take a Baron at 28 minutes and then push their gold lead back to 4K. iBoy is 6-0-2 and Rare Adam was up 11-3. And then it fell apart for Rare Adam. They lost the fight 4-3 for the Mountain Soul. Then Tarzan would then steal the Baron, which is why he's the MVP. If he doesn't steal the Baron, the game probably ends up being Rare Adam's to lose. But because LNG was able to steal the Baron, they're able to prevent the next Mountain Soul once again. And all they needed was one good fight. And at 40 minutes, Doomby would have a triple kill and a clean ace to end the game 5-0. And the score was 14-14 in kills. Like, Rare Adam, this was Rare Adam's game to lose. They threw it. I mean, they threw this game. They got blown out in this one. I mean, they're better than 15th, I'll tell you that. I mean, they're playing this team real well. And they played the other team, they won. So they're better than what I thought they were. But it's unfortunate that they threw this game because it was theirs to win and LNG had no right to win this game. So, thank you for watching the LPL half of this video. Now stay tuned and I will switch boards for the LCK. Hello and welcome to the second half of the video where I'm going to cover the LCK. Similarly to how I just covered the LPL. First we had Nanchan, Nianchin, or Red Force, I'm going to call him Red Force again, versus Live Sandbox. The 7th and 6th team in my rankings. As you can see here by the scores of the games, it wasn't close in either game. They were low scoring, but Red Force came out on top in both. The first game, Sandbox did go after Dread and kill him in the jungle in the early game and get out to an early lead by getting a Drake. However, the Red Force bot lane was able to respond, getting a kill 2v2 and setting themselves up in the bot lane to be able to carry later in the game. Now, at 11 minutes, Krako would get a solo kill, and there would be a 2-1 exchange in the top lane. Sandbox would then get another Drake, and at 15 minutes, it was Sandbox up 3-2, despite being down in gold, which was kind of the sticking point here. Was Red Force were out macroing Red Force by taking and ensuring that they were maxing out their abilities in creep score and things like that, whereas Sandbox, they were more focused on trying to create pressure, and in doing so, we're behind in gold. Red Force would then take a Rift Herald at 16 minutes, and Sandbox stayed committed to the Cloud Drake situation and went for the Soul Point at 18 minutes. I mean, by situation, I mean they were emphasizing making sure they ensured they had Drakes. By 20 minutes, Nanchun was up 3k gold, and at 20 minutes, they also would get into a fight, a 3-1 win in top lane, Kana getting a double kill for Red Force, which kind of set the tone for the rest of the game. After that, they were able to prevent the Soul twice. Sandbox could not finish the Cloud Soul for their life after 20 minutes. Red Force was able to take a Baron at 25 minutes, extend their lead to 6k, in which case they ended the game through top lane. I mean, there wasn't a lot, in terms of fighting in the second half of this game. As you can see here, there's a lot of pink and purple. I mean, there wasn't a lot of jostling for position in terms of people living and dying in these games. I mean, in those situations, compared to, say, maybe this game here. I think there were a couple fights over objectives where, teams weren't just rolling over. Now, in Game 2, it was a similar story. Dread ended up being the MVP, and I'll get to why. In the first 5 minutes, Dread and BDD both had solo kills simultaneously against their opponents. At 7 minutes, they would then get a 2-1 in mid lane, Red Force would, which would put Red Force up 4-1 and 3.5k gold by 10 minutes. And then that just turned into a Drake. I mean, this was another quick game, 25 minutes long by the end. They just made a play top lane at 12 minutes. Dread would get a triple kill. By 15 minutes now, Dread is 5-0-1. They have a 7k gold lead. The jungler is on fire. He's playing Diana. And if you remember anything about Diana last year, Diana, once she gets going, she is unstoppable. They would then take the next Drake. And, I mean, they were up to 8.5k by 20 minutes. They went to Cloud Soul Point. 25 minutes, they pushed their gold lead to 10k. And next thing you knew, it was ending at 25 minutes, goes to the double kill. I mean, I went over that game real fast. There's not a lot written there because not a lot happened, really. I mean, 13-5. Sandbox, in the early game here, Sandbox had it going on. They had a mission here of ensuring that they're getting the objectives and things like that. But the problem is, when push came to shove, they didn't get the soul. And if they'd gotten the soul, things would have been probably a lot different. But they lost the soul fight 1-0 and couldn't get it they couldn't get it. And that's just not acceptable. I mean, I think that was a winnable game for them. This game, it was close in Game 1. That's how Game 2 should have been. And Red Force just demolished them in Game 2. They just kept the momentum going from Game 1. 26-11. It wasn't even close. The second game was between KDF, Guangdong Freaks, and KT Rolster. This also was not close. As you can see, 20-7, 13-4. Game 1, Rascal would come out with a kill at level 1. He was the MVP, and more so for what he did in Game 2 than Game 1. But nevertheless, he set the tone right away, got a kill. KT made multiple plays in the early game, and next thing you knew, by 10 minutes, it was 4-1 KT, and KT had a slight gold lead. KDF would then take a Mountain Drake to try and respond. However, Rascal then solo killed Keen in the top lane on Tryndamere. And Rascal was 3-0-1, and they had a 3k gold lead at 15 minutes. KT Rolster was just, by this point you see there's going to be a lot of coloration here. KT just started rolling. They took the Hextech Drake. They took the Baron to put themselves at 5k at 22 minutes. Took a Cloud Drake. Went to Cloud Soul Point. KDF would step up a couple times in Game 1 to stop the bleeding. They did stop at one point after the first Baron because KT were ready to end on the first Baron. They stopped them. I believe the fight was 2-1. And then the gold lead was at 8.5k. KDF would then stop them again a second time. And it took multiple pushes by KT to finish Game 1. Which, KDF fought them off pretty good in Game 1. But Game 2, it wasn't like that. Game 2 was very... KDF approached it very differently, and it reminded me of like an LCS team trying to win a game when they really were not. They weren't going to win the game the way they were doing it. 32 minutes, KT would ace them, aiming with a triple kill. They debated on ending the game. A lot of people, I think the casters even thought they were going to end the game. KT decided to take a step back, took the Baron, pushed their gold lead up to 10k, took the Cloud Soul, and then would end at 35 minutes, aiming with a double kill through bot lane. Final score 20-7. KDF tried to fight back, but they didn't have a chance since level 1 in this game. They were behind the 8 ball. Game 2, similar story, except that Cuz was the one creating pressure in the early game. He would do multiple ganks and create a mismatch, in which case he then would take the Chemtech Drake, and then he emphasized Drakes once more, just like he had in this game, to the point where they actually would acquire Elder. By 10 minutes, KT was up 3-0. Rascal had 2 kills. 13 minutes, there was a 1-to-1 fight, a skirmish, if you will, and the game was close and gold. I mean, like I said, KT set the tone. They're getting ahead in objectives. Gold may have been close, but they had the advantage. They had the objectives. They had the better composition. They would go to Hextech Soul Point. It was still close after 20 minutes in terms of gold. But if you notice here, there aren't fights for these. I'm not saying, oh, well, they want to fight 2-to-1 or whatever. KDF did not fight KT at any of these objectives. Except this one. When push came to shove, and it was like, oh, crap, well, they're going to go for Hextech Soul Point right now. We better stop them. In which case they lost. KT would win that fight, aiming with a double kill. Now, at 29 minutes, the next time that we have action, KT's looking at an Elder because KDF didn't try and contest anything. KT would win that Elder fight 3-0. Then they would take the Baron off of that, up 6k, and they just ended. I mean, Aiming had a double kill in the final push. KDF did not even try and stop them until the Nexus turrets were falling. Like, it was crazy. It was truly wild. I don't know why they didn't, try and step up like they had in Game 1 to try and end the game. I mean, not end the game, but stop the end of the game, stop the bleeding. They didn't try that. 13-4 final score. It was 33-11 total. Rascal was MVP because he had that level 1 kill. He had a solo kill. He was clearly one of the leaders in the early games. Going 3-0-1 the first 15 minutes here and going 2-0-0 in the first 10 minutes there. He was definitely winning the top lane, just like he had earlier in the split in the other game he played. I mean, against Damwon, he dominated Hoya, and he was the only thing that KT really had against Damwon. So I think he's going to keep them as a top half, upper half team himself, I think. Arya's got to step it up. Arya had moments on LeBlanc, but the game was already kind of getting out of hand at that point. So I don't really know what he's offering right now. It's kind of disappointing in a way. I was expecting more out of him. Nevertheless, they won 2-0. They're now 1-1. Thank you for watching this video about the LPL and LCK. My LEC and LCS video will be out later tonight. And I'm going to keep doing these videos every day. So come back for more content if you like it, and subscribe if you like it. Constructive criticism is good criticism. Thank you for watching.